Hey, I'm Asy Saavedra. I'm a musician, producer, and composer.
So, see, how did you get into music and composing specifically?
The composing thing is a more recent thing for me, but I've actually been playing music pretty much all my life. Like I started playing piano when I was like 5. So it's just weirdly like always been attached to my identity. It's always been something I've been doing. And then, more recently I started doing composing, like more composing stuff like as a job. Just for video games and then some TV stuff, and that's been really awesome. But it's kind of weird because that actually was almost like more of how I started playing music. Like I started writing music in this way that was sort of like composing, because I would look at like picture books and I would like make music for the stories in the books, and also like I would have all these crazy like elaborate Playmobil setups, and then I would just like it sounds really weird, but I would like look at them and then like make music for it. It was just like this weird fun thing for me. So I think that was sort of like me kind of being like naturally liking composing when I was really young, but not knowing what it was.
So talk about like your style, like where do you pull inspiration from a lot of your music?
I think it's different for like the stuff that I'll do for my band Chaos, and then the stuff that I do for like scoring or composing, because I feel more free to be kind of weird and to like there's more freedom to create this kind of world with the music when you're doing it for composing. And even though like for the game Trover Saves the Universe that I scored recently, there's obviously like some things that I had to, like some prompts or just rules that I had to follow for, like, I couldn't just create any type of music. I had to fit the world of the game. But I feel like there's more freedom to like explore stuff, also because your voice and like your lyrics and stuff isn't really like a part of it. So it's more this like open, expansive territory. And for that stuff, I kind of love drawing from like a bunch of just really weird inspiration, some like classical, and then I guess I also listen to other video game soundtracks, but I really like more like kind of abstract, minimalist composition and stuff that's just like really evocative and makes you feel things, but there's no lyrics in it. You know what I mean?
I mean, obviously, like, there's different genres, but when you go to a project that's like a video game, do you handle that differently as like a television show or like a TV serial or like independent film? Like, do you go with each project with like a different mindset, or do you start in the same mindset for every project?
Honestly, it's so new for me that I'm totally just figuring it out as I go. I think it really depends on what it's for, because I think that certain things that you're scoring, like maybe, some of the stuff I've done in the past for Rick and Morty, it's really like specific and there's less freedom with the sound and things. It's more like, oh, we need a song that sounds like this and it has to fit this exact like sequence of events perfectly. So that's more like this kind of fun task. And then for a video game thing, it's like, oh, we need the level music for this. And then there's a lot more freedom. I can just kind of like really think about like what that means to me. I didn't have all of the like someone didn't give me like really specific instructions before. So that's why doing the video game stuff was really fun for me. It was more like my own interpretation of the game and music.
My other question would be like, so obviously you mentioned that you've worked on Rick and Morty before. Is that how you met Justin and why you got to work on his games, launch games, his studio?
Yeah, he reached out to us a while ago as a band to do some stuff, or he wanted to use one of our songs in Rick and Morty. That was right after we released our EP, Committed to the Crime. And then we just started collaborating a lot after that. It was kind of like a weirdly, like, I don't know, somehow it was like a natural collaboration, even though it seems really different, like what we do. Like obviously his stuff is like really funny, and then our stuff is pretty deep and like this, not deep and like it means more, but it's just more of like some of our music's more like serious or emotional. So I think that's why it works together. It's like it's kind of ironic, like clash, or at least in the past, that's why it worked for Rick and Morty. Sorry, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So it's been so long since I've had a dog, but I remember in, out, in, out, in, out. You know what I mean? They just want to go. If you're just going to go out to bark, you're going to come back in because that's all you want to do is go out and bark.
Dude, oh my God, it's so crazy. I was like making this song in my house at the beginning of quarantine, and I was just recording like everything really fast in my house, and I was kind of on a creative role. And then my dog just like kept doing like things that were getting in the recording, and I was like, oh my God, I was getting so annoyed because there's nothing you could do to like stop her. And then I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna put this, everything's going in, I'm just gonna like record her and like make it part of the song. And then I just started like recording her barks and stuff and like putting it in like weird ways. And then it was so weird because I like sent it to my friend, and some like I kind of made the barks and stuff like sound like you can't really tell what they are, so he just thought they were like these weird production sounds I was using. It worked out.
So can you talk about, specifically for Trover, can you talk about some of the inspirations you pulled and some of the themes you used for the game itself?
For just for like the music, like the what music inspiration? Well, for that, I definitely, Justin wanted me to kind of just, I guess, let myself go crazy with the music. And I think, you know, there's such a like so much imaginative stuff in the game that he really wanted the music to feel like it fit with that and to feel like that crazy. So I kind of was just I was using like some different instruments that I don't normally use. I set up a bunch of stuff in my studio that I was gonna like force myself to use, and then I was like specifically listening to oh man, actually this is kind of embarrassing. I realized I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Ennio Morricone. I have like, is that the right way to pronounce it? Whatever. He's like a super amazing, talented musician, but he does like obviously huge film scores, and it's like super cinematic and emotional and like intense. And I kind of wanted to create that, so I tried to do a bunch of stuff that to me seemed like his style, like stacking all these vocals and like using a lot of like synth stuff that kind of sounded like orchestral. And then I even used like a theremin on the song, and it was just, I was kind of like playing it in like a weird way. It's not like I'm not at all like talented at that instrument, but it was just cool to like use all these weird things and incorporate it. And then I was also, I was reading a bunch of like stuff. I was just kind of like trying to get outside of the normal limits of my imagination, if you know what I mean. So I was like reading a bunch of graphic novels and things that are just like really like expansive and out there. I was reading like Charles Burns, some like old Swedish stuff, like the Mumintrollen. It's like a Swedish thing that's like popular now, but it's like this really imaginative cartoon. There was like some Swedish art I was looking at because for some reason, like thinking about like the Swedish forest landscape kind of helped me to, it kind of felt a bit like the game, like it's this weird like fantasy forest world that it definitely doesn't, like it seems really like foreign and otherworldly. So I was kind of like tapping into that, and that's like it's like a creative place for me. So yeah.
Like, at what point do you get like visual cues for your music? Like, at what point in the development cycle does a studio give you, you know, does it give the concept art and you start to work your way around that? Does it give you like the alpha builds? Do you actually get to see the cutscenes? Do you actually get to see the environments like inside the game? Like, as far as like that goes, how much leeway do you get to start creating this music from a production standpoint?
Well, there were like different ways that I had, different ways that certain songs were made. So some of the instructions were like really specific, like, okay, we need a song that is like this, a character music. It's going to be like kind of like stupid sounding weird music for this one character. And then I would kind of write some stuff, and then I would get like direction on like what was working and what wasn't. And then other stuff was more like the team would give me just like a general vibe, like, we want something that sounds like kind of techy, like we want to hear like all these dial-up sounds and like industrial weird sounds, and just we want it to be like as evocative of that kind of stuff as possible. with like all these like beeps and like metal sounds and clashes, like all that kind of stuff. And then so I would make stuff like that, and then a lot of times there would just it'd be like they would give me like a vibe for a lot of material, and then I would write it, and I wouldn't know where it would be placed in the game, but then they would go through and put it in different places, and then I would watch cuts of it back and and then we would like see what was working and what wasn't. I think like one of the hard things for me with that was creating, because this is something that's I guess very specific to video games, and I had never made stuff like this before, and it's also like not really how my brain works, but they were like, yeah, you got to think of the music as being like Legos. Like it has to be able to, everything has to fit together. You have to start from like a loop, and you have to be able to add onto that and then also take away without the song totally changing, because the music is like gonna change in reaction to what the player is doing. So it kind of has to be able to like change and just like work in the background. And that was kind of tough for me, because I think I usually don't think of music in that type of way. But it was kind of fun once I got the hang of it, I guess. Everything just had to be like very much set into these like BPM, like time coded logic sessions where I could have these things come in and out at any point in the song and just make sure it would always work and stuff.
Is there a different mindset you go into as opposed to like writing a song for your band Chaos, or like doing something like, is there different kind of creative process that you go through when you're composing music or when you're writing a song for your band, or is it the same process because it's all music?
No, definitely. Yeah, it's like completely different. I mean, for some of the music, just the background stuff in the game, I guess I tap into the same kind of thing I tap into for Chaos, just wanting to like come up with something that kind of feels good and is like intriguing, but also sounds catchy, Like I always want to make sure the stuff I make like sounds good and is catchy. Like I never want to challenge listeners. Well, I guess sometimes this is cool, but usually I don't want to challenge listeners to the point where they actually just don't want to listen to something. But then, I mean, yeah, it's like a completely different process writing stuff for Chaos, because it's all about really making it about you and like putting being as vulnerable as you can and like making that vulnerability be a bold thing in the song. I think that's different than in the video game, because I couldn't necessarily like totally have me, or like, there's no lyrics. Like I could have my vibe in there, but not really in this super clear way as with Chaos.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about someone who composes music in general for video games, television, film, whatever? Like, what do you think now that you've done it a few times? Like,
well, the weird thing is I kind of feel like the way that I did it is like super different than other people would. So I almost like don't even feel like I can answer normal questions that you would ask like any composer for video games. I think, well, I guess like the more that I do this kind of composition stuff, I'm realizing like how different it is from like pop music and stuff. It's just a completely different thing. So I think that I would be surprised if I found people that did like pop music or like a big pop musician or something, and they also like scored for video games. I would be like, really, like, how does that work? 'Cause it's such a different thing. And I kind of didn't know it was going to be that different getting into it. But yeah, misconception? I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you think that people who scored for like huge video games would be super well known or something, and they're like kind of not. But sometimes like a video game soundtrack really does resonate with people, and then they get huge. I don't know. I mean, like, what would you think of a video game composer?
Oh, we're gonna flip. Oh, you're gonna be okay. How about you interview me, and then I'll be. No. You're right. No, like the only one I can think of off the top of my head, because I haven't finished my coffee yet, is like Enon Zur, who did like the Dragon Age series and the Fallout series.
Yeah.
Like, he's a big video game composer, but he's also done like feature films, independent films, and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But there are like a lot of other soundtracks that, of course, resonate with me. Like a lot of the Japanese RPG soundtracks resonate with me. I mean, like.
Yeah.
The Final Fantasy games, like those are all pretty big.
It's like so incredible because I think there's like definitely a big community of people that like listen to it kind of in the background as like a meditation thing. Because I think when you're like playing a game so much, the music of it just kind of just gets like ingrained in your brain, and you like, I mean, it might not always be meditative, but for some reason that's been my experience with like games I've played that have kind of like this cool music thing happening in the background. Like it really, really like reminds me of like the game, and I just feel like really familiar with it. So it's kind of cool to like listen to that on its own.
I think especially like with older games, because I mean, you had to completely rely on music. There was no voice acting, you know what I mean? Like on the Super Nintendo, you had to completely rely on the score to make the tone and feel of the game, where now you can have voices and people in the game talking to kind of establish the tone and the theme.
I kind of feel like music right now, game music, is definitely like, it seems like a good time for that, because it seems like people are kind of going like above and beyond with like what you could do with music. Like they're making these huge orchestral things in songs or in games, because it's kind of, the games in general just seem to be like taking up so much space, and they're like, people are creating these like amazing like worlds that you can get so attached to, and they feel so like real and like thorough with the vision. So obviously music is a component of that. So it's like, it's pretty cool to just see like everything that's going into the game, and the music can definitely be like really incredible. And I think that's like, I love it when like games do that. Like I don't like playing games where I hate the music and you just turn it off. Like that definitely happens. I like it when I'm like, oh, I want to hear the music. Yeah.
So how have advances in technology, or have you seen advances in technology help you creatively as a musician itself? I mean, we've gone from the days of people having to spend thousands of dollars to rent a studio to record, to where basically you can, like, I even have soundproof it in my room and not a mic, and you can do everything at home now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely helped a lot. Like just the ability to kind of create wherever you go. You can like create, and there's not really, this is good and bad, but there's not as many limitations. You kind of can have all of these sounds, and you can have all your analog. You can have like an entire analog studio like on your computer. And I guess for me, for video games especially, that's helped me, because I compose on like some analog synthesizers a lot, and I find that like what the limitations of those are actually, they kind of make me more creative. But for the game, it wasn't working out, because I had to like have stuff just really quickly like change the BPM, the tempo of it, and then change stuff, and that doesn't work well with analog. You have to like do the whole thing again. So for me, like being able to just have these synthesizers that I could edit super quickly on the computer was really helpful, and it meant that like I could just, you know, really quickly change this part or scrap this part or whatever, and it was awesome. But I think also for me, I love creating in like place like the wrong. I'm like the most creative when I'm like creating in the wrong setting, or like I'm like on an airplane or traveling or on tour or something. So I love to have like I have like this really small setup that I bring with me, and somehow I can create a lot with it. It's just like a small MIDI keyboard, and then pretty much everything on Logic, and then a microphone. And I don't know. I don't know why, but I get like excited about like the idea of like creating when it's like I'm in the wrong place, like making a song. Like, I don't know. It's just fun for me. So that's
was it hard creating music specifically for Trover, because Justin has such a what's the word I'm looking for? Aggressive way of like voicing his characters to you as the player. Like he always seems to be yelling at you in some contents in the games.
Yeah.
Was it hard to create music to complement that, because you know of his consistent screaming and yelling at you in the game all the time, calling you an asshole, come over here, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and there's just like this kind of peaceful like music in the background. I mean, I feel like that kind of worked well, because I mean, it wouldn't work if it was like this aggressive, really front and center dialogue, and then music that's also trying to take up the front space, like, you know, that wouldn't work. So I think my music had to be kind of pulled back. I know at first I realized I was doing like way too much, because I had like so much just crazy arpeggios, and I was doing like a bunch of stuff. And then it was like, when I listened to it, I realized it just sounded like kind of amateur in the game, because it was just too much going on. Like the dialogue, it's a really specific game where the dialogue is so front and center. So it actually meant that the music sort of had to be like background, you know, had to be something that kind of just fit into the background and like didn't take up that aggressive space. So yeah, I'm trying to think. I didn't really like ever try to compose music like around the dialogue in any way though. It was more like it was a different thing. So yeah.
This game was in VR. Did you consider that when you were making? I mean, it may sound foolish to maybe a dumb question, but like, did you like, you know, factor that into your creative process? Like, oh, this game's going to be in VR. Maybe I should try something like this. Or were you just like completely music? You know what I mean?
No, I did. I think that the fact that it was in VR just made it even more like, okay, the world of the game is going to be so immersive that I want people to just be able to be in the game and to feel this music maybe happening like around them, and to just have it completely feel like they're in this other world, you know? So it kind of just made me feel even more like, oh, cool. Like I want this to be even more otherworldly and just like really cool and weird sounding. So it like fits in the game. But now that I think about it, like it would have been kind of weird, but potentially cool to have like 3D mixing, like where there's like sounds going around you. Like that didn't happen, but that could have been cool.
So what are you working on right now, and what's next for you as far as like music composition wise, or even if your band's touring soon? Or you're probably not touring now because of COVID, but still.
Yeah, we're not touring. There's actually a lot that is getting cooked up. We are writing. We actually already have like an album's worth of songs for Chaos, and we are working on those. And we have like this project that those are going to be for. And luckily, we didn't have the plan to be touring right away. I think we actually did. Like, we toured, I guess, like a little over a year ago. We toured China, and then we had a plan we did like a world tour in China, and then we were going to do another world tour going to China a year later, because that kind of made sense. So that's just having to get pushed back, but it wasn't already planned, so it's all right. But yeah, we have like a bunch of new material we're working on, and we're doing some cool collabs with other artists. So I guess stuff isn't announced yet, so I can't say exactly.
So where can people go to find more information about your band and like you and stuff like that? Like online, that you have a website?
Yeah, they should definitely check out our Chaos. We're actually putting like all our material. We don't have all our material on our YouTube for some reason. But we're putting all of our material on there, and then obviously our Instagram. For some reason, that's like our main place where we promote stuff, and we're sharing some new song teasers and stuff on there. So that's a cool place to go. Also my Instagram, which is just Asy Saavedra. I'm going to be sharing my new music and the Trover soundtrack. I'm going to be announcing the single today, which is Hanging Out in the Sky, and that's the intro music for it. And then the whole soundtrack is going to be out September 25th, and there's some like bonus tracks on there. So yeah.
That's awesome. Is that coming out on vinyl as well, or is it just are you releasing it digitally?
It's coming out on vinyl, but there's more bonus tracks on the digital one. But the vinyl one is amazing because there's like this incredible artwork by Alex Purdy, and it's really like limited. I think there's only like 300 copies or something. So I don't know how many are left, but if anybody wants it, they should definitely order it at Mondo. Do you think you could like put those links up or something like on the video?
Yeah, I can put them in the description below, and I'll probably put them in the article too, so it'll work out.